Alright, what's up? I'm going live on YouNow and on YouTube. We posted this on YouTube. Now, I wrote this because of John Maxwell and Jim Doran. Shout out to them. They wrote this book called Influence, Becoming a Person of Influence. I've been reading it. I'm almost done with it. It's an amazing book. Suggest you read it. And I wrote this because of this book. And one thing they talk about in it, and I just took it into farther depth, is nurturing others and what nurturer gives. Now, the first thing they give, I have to start over my speech. Yes, I do. Now, if you hear me talking on the video, it's because I'm talking to my people on YouNow. Alright, so, first thing they give, number one, love. There's no future, no connection, and no success together without it. That's the first thing, that's the foundation of a nurturer, okay? You show people you care, in return they will respond positively to you. When it comes to helping people grow and feel good about themselves, there is no substitute for love. That is the foundation. And Richard Nixon, this is an example. Richard Nixon, the President of the United States that got impeached, you know, after his resignation, he told his wife that he wanted to die. He got sick, and he was in the nurse's bed at a hospital, and he told his wife straight up he wanted to die. He felt he betrayed his nation. And then one day, the nurse came in. She opened up the blinds, and in the distance you saw an airplane. And the airplane said, "God loves you, and so do we." And that was a turning point. The expression of love that the nurse gave him courage and desire to keep going and to recover in his sickness. So that's just a prime example of what just showing love can do. It can change people's attitude completely. Second thing, respect. Now here's an example of respect. Listen to this. A woman, she just moved into a small town. She complained to her neighbor about poor service received at a local drugstore. She was hoping the neighbor would repeat her criticism to the store owner. Next time the woman walked into the store, the owner greeted her with a big smile, told her how happy he was to see her again, took care of her quickly and efficiently. Now later that day, the woman went to her neighbor, and she said, "I suppose you told him how I thought how poor the service was." Now this is what the neighbor said. The neighbor said, "Well, no, in fact, I hope you don't mind, but I told him you were amazed at the way that he built up his small drugstore, and you thought it was the best run drugstore you've ever seen." People respond to respect. They don't respond to negativity. So just the neighbor knew that if you said, you know, if he went up in there and told the drugstore owner that she thought it was like the best drugstore she's ever been in, that the guy was gonna treat her like amazing. Okay, so people will do nearly anything if you show respect, and it makes clear that their feelings are important. Okay, so that's a huge thing in a nurturer. So that's two. Sense of security. Number three. People reluctant to trust you and reach their full potential when worried about whether they're not safe with you, right? So, but when you're secure, they'll be in a position to respond positively, and they'll be doing their best no matter what. Part of making people feel insecure comes from integrity, which I talked about yesterday. Being positive and never lying, being honest. That's what integrity means. So treat others how you want to be treated, because every person is going to ask 3 questions in their head when they meet a person. 1, can I trust you? 2, are you committed? 3, do you care about me as a person? They're all going to be, and like you ask that, whenever you meet someone, you ask that. Whenever you meet a friend. So I mean, if you just show them that you're a person that you can trust, and you're a person that's honest and loyal, then they'll have faith in you. This is all about being a nurturer, guys. Now, number 4. This is my favorite one. Recognition. Now, listen. Recognition is greatly appreciated by everyone, not just people in business and in the industry. Even a little bit of recognition can go an incredibly long way in someone's life. For example, I'm going to tell you a quick story written by Helen P. Morrison, a teaching nun who experienced she had with a recognition in a student named Mark Eklund. Now listen, I'm getting this story from this book that I've been reading. I'm going to tell you this quick story about recognition. This is just about recognition. Y'all ready? Alright. Now, it's not that long, so just bear with me. One Friday in the classroom, things just didn't feel right. We had worked hard on a new concept all week, and I sensed that the students were growing frustrated with themselves and edgy with one another. So I stopped the crankiness before it got out of hand. So I asked them to list the names of the other students in the room on 2 sheets of paper, leaving a space between each name. Then I told them to think of the nicest things they could say about each of the classmates and write it down. It took the remainder of the class period to finish the assignment, but as the students left the room, each one handed me their paper. That Saturday, I wrote down the name of each student on a separate sheet of paper, and I listed what everyone else had to say about that individual. On Monday, I gave each student his or her list. Some of them ran 2 pages. Before long, the entire class was smiling. "Really?" I heard whispers. "I never knew that meant too much to anyone. I didn't know others liked me that much." No one ever mentioned those papers in class again. I never knew if they discussed them after class or with their parents, but it didn't matter. The exercise accomplished its purpose. The students were happy with themselves and one another, and they worked with one another again. The group of students moved on several years later. After I returned from vacation, my parents met me at an airport as we were driving home. My mother asked me an unusual question about the trip, how the weather was, my experiences in general. There was a slight lull in the conversation, and Mother and Dad had a sideways glance and simply said, "Dad?" My father cleared his throat and said, "The Eklunds called last night," he began. "Really?" I said. "I haven't heard them from several years. I wondered how Mark was, who was a student in the past." Dad responded quietly, "Mark was killed in Vietnam. He said the funeral is tomorrow and his parents would like if you could attend." To this day, I can still point out the exact spot on the flight that my dad told me about Mark. I had never seen a serviceman in a military coffin before. The church was packed with Mark's friends and old classmates. Chuck's sister sang the Battle Hymn of the Republic. Why did it not rain that day on the funeral, I don't know. It was difficult enough at the graveside. The pastor said the unusual prayers, and the burglar played his taps. One by one, we loved Mark, took his last walk by the coffin, and sprinkled it with holy water. I was the last one to bless the coffin. As I stood there, one of the soldiers who had acted as a pallbearer came up to me. "Were you Mark's math teacher?" he asked. I nodded, and I continued to stare at the coffin. "Mark talked about you a lot," he said. After the funeral, most of Mark's former classmates headed to the Chuck's farmhouse for lunch. Mark's mother and father were obviously waiting for me. "We want to show you something," his father said, taking out a wallet out of his pocket. "They found this on Mark when he was killed. We thought you might recognize it." Opening the billfold, he carefully removed two worn pieces of notebook paper that obviously had been taped, folded, refolded many times, and I knew without looking the papers were the ones on which I listed all the good things each of Mark's classmates had said about them. "Thank you so much for doing that," Mark's mother said. As you can see, Mark treasured it. Mark's classmates started to gather around us. Chuck smiled rather than sheepishly and said, "I still have my list. It's in the top of my drawer at the desk at home." John's wife said, "John asked me to put mine in his wedding album." "I have mine too," Marilyn said. "It's in my diary." Then Vicky, another classmate, reached out of her pocketbook and took out her wallet and showed her warm and frazzled list to the group. "I carry this with me at all times." Vicky said without battling her eyelashes, "I think we all saved our lists." That's when I finally sat down and cried. So, bam! Just by each person, that was that short story, just by each person in that classroom, they wrote nice things. They cherished that. One person even took it into the battlefield in Vietnam. So, I mean, that's legitly crazy. To me, at least, just by that. So just recognize people. Recognize what they, their talents. And straight up tell them about that. And you'll definitely get some positive feedback from that person. A person will really thank you about that. Alright, 5th thing is encouragement. An experiment tested years ago measured how long people could endure pain. Psychologists measured how long a barefooted person could stand in a bucket of ice water. They found one factor made it possible for most people to stand in the ice water twice as long. Guess what that factor was? It was encouragement. When someone was there to urge and keep the person pushing on and not to give up, they can do it more than twice as long as someone without encouragement. Some people have quote unquote said encouragement is the oxygen of the soul. Now listen, the whole reason why I'm saying all this, the whole reason why I'm doing all this is because I want people, you know, like, a lot of people are self-minded, but they haven't even had the idea of being other-minded. Think of others instead of always putting stuff that benefits you and your interests. Think of some other people, and maybe in the long run, you might have people that you helped out that might do the same to you. And what others receive when you do this, and you be a nurturer, one, they get positive self-worth, sense of belonging, perspective, feeling of significance, and hope. And how to do this? Commit to them. Believe in them. Be accessible to them. Give them no strings attached. Give them opportunities. Lift them to a higher level. Walt Disney once stated there's 3 types of people in life. Well poisoners, who discourage others, stomp on creativity, and tell others what to do. There's lawnmowers, have good intentions, but self-absorbed, only mow their own lawns, don't help others. And then you have the life enhancers, who reach out to enrich the lives of others, who lift them up and inspire them. You choose which one you are. Even if you think that you're a well poisoner, lawnmower, life enhancer, it's always easy to step on the higher path and make positive choices. It's all about being a nurturer, just making your choices to help people. It's my last page of my speech. Last page on my speech. Alright. Now, there was a boy named Tommy, okay? He had a particularly hard time in school. He continually asked questions. He could never quite keep up in school. It seemed he failed every time he tried something. His teacher finally gave up on him, and he told his mother that he could not learn and he would never amount to much in life. But Tommy's mother was a nurturer. She believed in him. She taught him at home, and each time he failed, she gave him hope and encouragement to keep on trying. What happened to Tommy? He became an inventor, eventually creating and inventing more than 1,000 things, such as the first electric light bulb. His name was Thomas Edison. Now, Thomas Edison did not only just amount to a legacy, he also had something called perseverance. Guess how many times, I want y'all to comment and guess how many times it took him to create the light bulb. Just comment a number right now. Take a guess. Take a wild guess on how many times it took him to successfully create the light bulb. 6, 99, 51, a lot, 400, 520. Y'all ready? 11,000 times. 11,000. 11,000 times. Literally 11,000 times before he successfully created the light bulb. That is perseverance. To keep on trying no matter what. Even after failure and failure and failure, he kept on trying until he legitly successfully did it. And now he's a legacy. He's going to be remembered forever. He did not give up no matter what. And, just think about that. Why should you give up? That's true. Go look it up right now on Google. Go do your research. Trust me, I've done my research on everything I just told you is true. So I want y'all to, just take that in consideration. Why should you give up on your dreams? Why should you give up on your goals? He did it. He did, like, what the impossible seemed, but he made it possible.